One of my favorite parts about being a paleontologist is learning the sometimes insane history behind our most iconic specimens. Welcome back to 30 Days of Dinovember, where we're going to be talking about 30 little-known dinosaurs, or prehistoric marine reptiles in this case, with big stories, and there's not much bigger than this guy. This eldritch monstrosity, seen here eating me alive, is Kronosaurus, and it's really big. Unreasonably big, one might say, and you'd be more correct than you might think. Now, this particular Kronosaurus was dug up in 1932 during the so-called Harvard Australian expedition, and the excavation was led by paleontologist William Cheville. Cheville had been exploring around eastern Australia, collecting animal specimens for the museum and meeting locals, and one day he rolled into the town of Hughenden, Queensland, where he was introduced to rancher R.W.H. Thomas. Look, I wasn't able to find a good picture of that specific Australian shepherd, so I hope that you'll take this Australian shepherd as a substitute. You see, for the last couple years, Thomas had noticed something odd eroding out of one of the hills on his sheep farm, and he thought Cheville would be just the guy to figure out what it was. When Cheville arrived at the property, he was greeted by the sight of an almost complete line of vertebrae arranged in this series of 15 limestone nodules. Now, these limestone blocks were way too huge and dense to just be broken up with a pickaxe or something. These guys needed some extra firepower. Cheville and Thomas enlisted the help of a local British expat who had explosives experience from his service in the army to help them dynamite these fossils out of the side of the hill. And this man is only ever referred to in the literature by his local nickname, the Maniac, which he received from allegedly unaliving a guy. I swear, you just cannot make this stuff up. So after this maniac blows 6 tons of a sea monster out of the side of a sheep farm, it gets loaded up on a ship and sent off to Cambridge, Massachusetts. For over 15 years, those blocks sat in the museum's collection mostly unprepared until the intervention of this industrialist and philanthropist Godfrey Lowell Cabot, who is obsessed with sea monsters ever since his great-grandfather allegedly saw the Gloucester sea serpent back in 1817. So when he heard that there was a real-life sea serpent in the basement of the museum waiting for the funding to be dug out, he sent a check for $10,000. It actually ended up taking a little more than that to fully finish. Now, because we didn't know that much about pliosaurs at the time, it was mounted with several reconstructed extra vertebrae that they thought were missing, but that means that the mounted specimen is about 10 feet longer than it should be. But even if my own museum specimen is a bit too big, this sea monster still has a very special place in my heart.